Okay, so let's talk about vaccines. So what, as a parent is navigating the vaccine schedule, what do you want them to know from a mom's perspective and from a physician's perspective?
Well, I think it goes hand in hand. So I think moms are going to want to know what doctors know. That's how we are when we have our babe. We become mama bear all of a sudden. So what I want them to know, and what's most important, is I want you to know about what the disease is that you're vaccinating for. I want you to know what the vaccine is, and I want you to know why. Why are we vaccinating for it? What are the risks of vaccinating? What are the benefits of vaccinating? And these aren't opinions of mine. This is all in the research. So I don't speak about my personal opinion with anything. Most especially when I am a physician in the office and I'm talking to parents, they like to ask me, what is my mother opinion? And my mother opinion is going to be different than yours because I have different risk factors for my family, risk factors for disease. And so the way that I treat each patient is every child is different. And we go over and we assess what your child's and your family's risk factors are. And I think that's more helpful for parents is when they can get an idea of like, what is this vaccine that you're injecting into my child? What is it for? Why are we doing it? And what are the risk factors? They feel more informed. And so chances are quite likely they are going to go ahead with that vaccine. Or if they decide not to, that's up to them as well. I am all for medical freedom.
So so it's basically giving parents the opportunity to decide. Do you know or understand how the CDC chooses its vaccination schedule and why when it comes to vaccinating children?
How they choose the schedule?
Yeah, so
Um,
I know that in the past, I would say decade or so, it seems like kids are getting more vaccines than they did, 10 or 20 years ago, and we're vaccinating at a very young age. So I guess, is there a reason behind um, us getting vaccines to children who are like 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, all that stuff? Is there an opportunity for us to delay, or how do we find out that information?
okay, that's a lot of questions.
I know.
Uh, how about we just stick with one, one of your questions? So let's talk about why we vaccinate the very little kiddos. And
Mhm.
so the reason why we do that is because the whole point, the one of the pros of a vaccine, and the most important pro, is to protect the vulnerable. Now, we're all vulnerable at one point or 2 points or a couple in our life. And the most important time of vulnerability is under age 1, most specifically under age 3 months. And so we want to get your kiddo in the office and vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate in hopes that we protect your babe in that first year of life. So
Okay,
that's why you come in multiple times throughout the first year. Now, for say vaccines like the DTaP vaccine, you get 5 doses and you get the first 3 doses in your first year of life. And the reason why we do that is because your immune system is not primed yet. It hasn't seen anything in the environment yet. Like you have such a small amount of an immune system. And so when we give you that first vaccine, you just don't see much of an antibody response. And so now we got to give you the second one, and then we got to give you the third one in hopes that we're conferring some type of protection in that first year of life.
okay. When it comes to vaccinating kids young, what are the cons, or what are the cons to vaccines in general?
I think the biggest con to vaccines when they're very little, as an example, in the hepatitis B vaccine, we have neomycin. Now, some people are allergic to antibiotics. So, one of the reasons why the CDC will state don't vaccinate your kid is an allergy to one of the components in the vaccines. Well, if you vaccinate your child with hepatitis B on the first day of life, which is what we do, so when the babe is born in the hospital, you get the hepatitis B vaccine. How do you know that your kiddo's allergic to an antibiotic yet? They haven't been dosed yet. Or, as an example, the Afluria vaccine is a flu vaccine that we dose 6-month-old kiddos. Well, the antigen is grown on egg albumin. So, one of the reasons why you won't give the flu vaccine is an allergy to eggs. Well, if you're 6 months old and mama's breastfeeding the whole time and you haven't done a food introduction, how do you know that babe is allergic to eggs yet? So that's one of the biggest cons of vaccinating a small child is that we just don't know what their potential risk factors are. So we don't have an autoimmune diagnosis potentially yet. We don't know of an allergy yet. And those are reasons the CDC will say, don't vaccinate your small child.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, I'm just looking over my questions real quick.
Yeah, that's okay.
Are some vaccines more important than others?
So again, it just depends on the kiddo and their risk factors. So, what might be important for your child might not be important for my child. So, is the kiddo traveling? Were they born vaginal or C-section? Are they breastfed or formula fed? Older siblings in the home? Smokers in the home? Do they have access to quality health care? Are they getting nutritious foods? So, those are all questions that I ask parents when we make a decision on which vaccines, if all or none or some, are your child going to, is your child going to get?
Okay. And then are there benefits to delaying the vaccines? You were just talking about, if you have an infant or a baby who hasn't even been introduced to food yet, you don't know a lot of things. So, what are some of the benefits, if there are any, to delaying vaccines?
So we talked about it. So one of the biggest benefits to delaying a vaccine is to know your child. So we don't know yet quite who your child is when they first come out. We don't know what their potential risk factors are. We don't know if they have any underlying conditions or diagnoses or genetics. So we just don't know. We don't know what allergies they may have. We don't know if they're methylating well or not. And so the longer that you can delay a vaccine, so this is one of the reasons, the longer you delay a vaccine, the more you know about the kid and the more likely you are compelled to want to vaccinate or not. One of the other reasons to delay a vaccine is what we had spoken about. When you delay a vaccine, when the child's immune system is more mature, they get more of an antibody response, so more of a robust response with each vaccine, which could also mean less vaccines on the schedule. So, as an example, if you wait to vaccinate your child from HIB or pneumococcal, the longer that you wait to delay starting that vaccine, the less doses they need in the series.
When it comes to doses, since they do need several rounds sometimes, um, is
So
there
it's
a bit of,
4 doses of pneumococcal and Hib, and that's what's on the CDC recommended schedule starting at birth. But if you wait till age 7 months to vaccinate for either of those, you get one less vaccine on the schedule. You only need three. If you wait until 12 months, then you only need two on the schedule. And if you wait till 15 months to start either of those vaccines, you only need one dose. So that's an example of delaying. It's less doses in the series, so it's less potential for a side effect.
when it comes to side effects, is there a benefit of doing one vaccine at a time? Because I know with a lot of kids and a lot of pediatric offices, they give multiple vaccines in one visit.
Well, there's a pro and a con to that. So if you want to do one vaccine at a time, it's more visits to the office. Because you have so many. It's like some days there's 6 shots in one day, but they've put it down into one combination vaccine, so it looks like you're only getting one or two vaccines. But if you delay and you want to do one at a time, I mean, you could be in the doctor's office like every 2 weeks for months and months and months. Also, every time you do a vaccine, there's antigens and there's other ingredients in the vaccine. There's to make the vaccine work properly. So, an example, if you go with a DTaP vaccine and you want to do Daptosil, there are other adjuvants and ingredients in the vaccine. So, as an example, aluminum, which many parents are very fearful of, is injecting aluminum into their infant. And so, if you do one single vaccine at a time, you're going to get aluminum every single time you go in for a vaccine, as opposed to a combination shot where you're just going to get aluminum during that one vaccine. Does that make sense?
It
That's
does.
just one example.
Yeah, it does. It does.
You're not just getting the antigen when you get a vaccine. You are getting every other ingredient that's also in that vaccine along with that antigen. And so if you do a combination and put all in one, then it's less ingredients total that you're going to get. But some parents are like, I don't want to get this one part of that combination, or I want to delay that because I know if I delay that, I can do less doses in the series later when my child's older. So that's the problem with these combination vaccines, is that you can't remove one of those antigens out you have to get all of them in the one shot. So some parents do like to pick and choose, and they will bring their kiddo in for extra visits.
Okay. When it comes to the FDA approval process for vaccines, is it ever revised? Is there more research that's looked into once the FDA says, yes, this is good to go, let's distribute it?
So what's interesting with that is it typically takes 7 to 10 years to bring a vaccine to market and for FDA approval. But we've all seen with recent events in the last couple of years with the COVID vaccine, it was fast tracked to market with like no evidence and no information. But typically it's 7 to 10 years. But what I find interesting is we have a new pneumococcal vaccine. So it used to be the Prevnar 13, and now it's the Prevnar 20. And so what happened was they just last year, they added 7 more antigens into that vaccine. And then the way they did the trials on it was that they did a trial based off of the older version of the vaccine and the newer version of the vaccine. Like they didn't do a placebo trial. So all they did was do a trial against the older version of the vaccine. So I find that very interesting.
Okay. So vaccines on the market, they might just do the testing differently than going back and checking, it sounds like.
It's completely different. So
Yeah.
biologics they're not like pharmaceuticals. So vaccines they don't go through the same type of trials. Biologics are vaccines. So we call them biologics.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let's talk about parents who choose not to vaccinate their children at all. What are some of the reasons for that? What are some of the pros and cons?
It's up to the parent. So, a reason that they may not want to vaccinate at all is perhaps they were educated and they were informed and they just made a decision that they thought was best for their child or their family, and they chose not to vaccinate. So, I can't tell you why they're choosing not to. I gave them the information, I gave them the science for the vaccine, the benefits and risks, and they made that decision for themselves. And what was the second part of that question?
What are some of the pros and cons for parents who are deciding not to vaccinate their children?
Uh, Again, I'm neutral. I don't have a
So like
pro and a
so if a child is walking around unvaccinated,
Mhm.
what is the positive side of not being unvaccinated, scientifically speaking?
Well, I guess scientifically speaking, is one of the positives of not being vaccinated is if they do come in contact with the disease. So, example, if a 7-year-old who's unvaccinated, they contract pertussis, uh, it's a pain and it's a lot and it's several weeks of potential symptoms. Well, it could be less or more. It just depends on the person. But then they'll have potentially lifelong immunity to pertussis. And that's pretty awesome to know that for the rest of my life, if pertussis is around in the environment, chances are quite likely I'm not going to catch it unless I have an issue with my immune system and immune deficiency. Because the thing is that when you do a vaccine, you only have antibodies for so many years. So the DTaP vaccine, the acellular pertussis component of that vaccine it doesn't work very well. And so you need 5 doses to confer protection to pertussis. And then you need a booster every couple of years. And so just because you get vaccinated doesn't mean that you're immunized for life. You do have to continually go back and get boosters. And when was the last time you went and got an MMR booster? Or when was the last time you went and got a Tdap booster? So us as adults, we are walking around as potential reservoirs for disease because we don't go back and get our boosters. But then we're like, you kids, you have to go get vaccinated.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting.
Yeah, it certainly is because I was thinking after 18, I can't think of any vaccine that I got unless it was recently with the COVID, coming around. Other than that, it's like I don't remember the last time I had a shot. So,
Correct.
yeah.
So that is one of the definite positives of being unvaccinated. And, the con obviously is if your kiddo contracts, pertussis at age 6 months because you didn't go in and get them their first 3 vaccines, that is a definite con. But chances are quite likely that at age 6 months, your kiddo is going to also still contract pertussis because you won't have high enough antibody titers to pertussis. But the reality or the idea, and it is a reality, like symptoms are less severe. if you have been vaccinated. So even if you do catch pertussis and you have been vaccinated, it is in the research that symptoms are less severe.
So you still get the virus, it's just not as severe as how it's
The,
impacting your body.
the infection, yes.
All right, super. I don't know if you're able to answer this one, but do you care to share any thoughts about RFK coming into office, about this conversation about parents having more consent when it comes to their children getting vaccinated or being more knowledgeable about it? Any thoughts about what the next 4 year holds if this new administration is approved?
So I'm not much into politics and I stay out of it, but this is what I'll say. I grew up in a home with a politician, my father, and he is the most, I'm get teary eyed, he is the most honorable, non-judgmental, caring man. He's for the people. He has integrity. And that's what I thought politicians were. Like that was my idea of a politician growing up. He was a judge for 20 years before he retired, and he is now currently a visiting judge with the Ohio Supreme Court. And having said that, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can be just a hair like my father, then we're going to have a really good 4 years. But I'll speculate because just because you're in office doesn't mean a whole lot of change can be made. And so I'm skeptical too. So he has been a huge advocate for informed consent and medical freedom, but he's also made a lot of money doing that as well, being that for parents. And he has, so he, I hope that, we'll see. If the one thing he does in his 4 years of office is to mandate pediatricians to see all children, no matter their vaccine status, it's a huge win for me. It's a huge win for me. Because right now, parents don't have pediatricians because pediatricians refuse to see your kiddo if they have not been fully vaccinated or if they've not been vaccinated at all. And that's we took an oath when we came into practice, every one of us, to first do no harm. And we know that all FDA approved pharmaceuticals and biologics come with potential side effects. We know that. And so the idea of forcing a child to receive these vaccines, knowing there's potential side effects, that's against our practice and our ethics as a physician.
Wow.
So that's my hope for RFK Jr. is that the one thing he does is mandate pediatricians to see all kiddos. And I know why well, there's multiple reasons why pediatricians will say, but pediatricians will justify because the American Academy of Pediatrics has said you do not have to accept these children into your office. And so I know what the pediatrician's comeback is. It's like, well, I do not want an unvaccinated or a partially vaccinated child in my office to potentially cause a issue with my immunocompromised kids in practice. But I'll tell you this, I went through COVID as a doctor, and every single day, because of OSHA regulation, we had to wipe down the entire office, every single room in the clinic, and that's what we can do. So if pediatricians see these kiddos 1 day a week, I'm going to see unvaccinated and I'm going to see partially vaccinated kids. I am going to wipe down the entire clinic and I'm going to wipe down all the offices just to make sure that those few kiddos in your practice who are immunocompromised don't have a problem. So I have a solution. I mean, we had to do it every day with COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we can't do it now. Um, so yeah, if he continues to believe in his ideals of informed consent and medical freedom, um, I'd like to hope that at least something positive comes out of these next 4 years.
I know we have to wrap up soon. When it comes to children who are healthy, trying to think of how to phrase this.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking if you have a healthy child and you are injecting something like a vaccine into the child, is there a negative, even if they don't have a negative reaction, is that making them less healthy, or is there a con to that?
We don't have any research on that. So we don't have any research of following vaccinated versus unvaccinated kiddos. There was a very, very small intra-office study done out on the West Coast a couple years ago, and this doctor compared his fully vaccinated population to his unvaccinated population. And he did come back and say that, these unvaccinated kiddos are more healthy. They came in for less sick visits. So that's all we have, though. We don't have any research to show a longitudinal study that shows, comparison of vaccinated versus unvaccinated kiddos.
I know that a lot of stuff I've seen online is talking about how pediatrician offices get kickbacks or bonuses when it comes to the pharmaceutical companies paying for these vaccines. Is there truth to that of some offices not wanting to see
It's absolutely
unvaccinated
true.
kids?
It's absolutely true. So if you just go a quick Google search and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, if a certain percentage of your office, and this goes for all offices, so if a certain percentage of your practice is fully vaccinated, you get so many dollars per child in your practice. And so I have a medical freedom healthcare provider directory. It has over 3,000 physicians in the country who will see your child. And many of them have said, "Oh, sorry, I can't see your kids anymore," because they've hit that amount of unvaccinated kiddos in their clinic. And so they have to keep the percentage of fully vaccinated kiddos at a certain place so that they can receive this compensation. And I'll tell you this is what I find absolutely crazy. I receive emails from the TAPI organization, TAPI. It's something about vaccines or immunization. They are holding a gala in April to give awards out to pediatricians who have vaccinated the most amount of children.
Wow.
Like, it is disgusting to me that we are rewarding pediatricians for not offering informed consent to their patients. And informed consent means that I, as a physician, it is my job, like I am legally bound to tell you that if I am going to give you, as an example, the DTaP vaccine, I am supposed to tell you all of the benefits and all of the risks of that vaccine. I'm to pull out the package insert, the FDA package insert, and I'm supposed to go over that with you. And then I am supposed to ask you, do you want to receive this vaccine? Well, I know because I have a small child that when you go into the pediatrician's office, they say, "You're getting XYZ vaccines today. Have a good day." And then the medical assistant comes in and gives the vaccines. The doctor doesn't even give them. And so pediatricians don't do that. They don't offer informed consent. And by law, we're bound to do that. And so I I'm in a quandary.
Yeah.
This bothers me so much. I'm like my father. He is such a profound, wonderful individual and a politician. And I am following in my father's footsteps to be for the people. I am
Hmm.
for my patients, and I am for all parents in letting them understand that this is how a doctor is supposed to operate. A doctor is supposed to operate like I operate. I am for you. I am not for myself. To receive an award to fully vaccinate your clinic, it disgusts me.
Hmm. My last question would be, this is such an emotional and now political topic. Where do you think that stems from? I interviewed a mom yesterday who told me like people are calling her a moron and stupid and uneducated because she's choosing not to have her child vaccinated after he had a bad reaction to one of the vaccines, 6 months old.
It's been polarizing for a while, and I believe it started with the government. So, the government forces these mandates, and there's 5 or 6 states in the United States right now where it's by law you have to be fully vaccinated according to the CDC to start school. And when a parent knows, hey, wait a minute, like I know that I just watched a commercial on whatever pharmaceutical, and at the end of the commercial, by law, they have to show all of the potential side effects. A parent's like, wait a minute, I know that these vaccines also come with side effects, potential side effects, and you're not giving me a choice to whether I'm going to inject my child with this. So I think it started with the government. you have a 16-month-old, mamas are smart. They're gonna go down deep dives to educate themselves. And when you don't allow medical freedom, when you don't allow choice when it comes to something mandated that may potentially cause something serious or cause harm, that's unethical. And so I feel for these parents. Vaccine side effects are real. Vaccines come with real risk. In 1986, the United States government started the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. They stopped holding vaccine manufacturers liable. And now there is a government body that if you have a vaccine reaction or if your child suffers from a vaccine reaction, you go to what's called vaccine court and you state your case. And I think, I haven't checked it in a couple months, but it's over $1 billion right now that's been paid out in vaccine injuries since the inception of this. And
Wow.
so the government's saying, hey, look, we know that vaccines pose real risk. We are mandating these vaccines. We are not holding the vaccine manufacturer liable because you can't. Like, I own a business. If you came to me and said, hey, we're going to give this product that you manufacture to all kids across the United States, and that's the way it's going to be, I'd say, well, I know that there are some side effects potentially, and I don't want to be held at risk. I don't want to be held liable for lawsuit. And so the government removed it. There's no liability for vaccine manufacturers, and they're mandating these potentially, for some people, harmful biologics.
Hmm.
And so I think the polarizing um, conversation that we have right now is you've got one camp of highly educated individuals. People who choose not to vaccinate or choose to vaccinate on a different alternative schedule are highly educated, highly educated. Um, and there was an article that came out a couple of years ago that the highly educated parents are the ones causing the anti-vax movement. And so if you're taking the time to do your research, you're a smart person. So I'm sorry that that mother is being put through that because vaccine reactions are very real
Mhm.
and they happen regularly.
Is there a reason? I know I said I had one more question, but is there a reason for parents who do vaccinate their kids to be quote unquote afraid or to worry about the other children who aren't vaccinated?
Well, I don't know. Isn't that common sense? Like, does
Yeah,
that make
but
sense?
I feel like that's one of the arguments of like, oh, you're not going to vaccinate your child. You're going to kill everybody because your child's unvaccinated. They're just going to spread all the diseases.
So I think what a parent is saying is that I don't want your unvaccinated kid around mine because you're a reservoir for bacteria and virus, which is
Mhm.
just hilarious. It's not true. And so it doesn't make sense. So if your child is fully vaccinated and your child is protected, from all of these said diseases, then how is it an unvaccinated child has, say, pertussis? How are they going to give your child pertussis if you're fully vaccinated? If vaccines work, um, it doesn't make sense to me. And I know
Mhm.
that's an argument. So it happens regularly on the playground, or it did most especially through COVID. Is like, is your kid fully vaccinated? Because I don't want my kid playing with yours if you're one of those anti-vax or unvaccinated.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense. It's kind of like the pediatrician saying, like, your unvaccinated child poses a risk to my patients. It's like, no, they don't. Clean your office.
Mm.
Like, pick a day where you see these kids and clean up your office.
Right. Come on
So,
Tuesdays.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is mandate all pediatricians to pick one day a week where they see these kids, where they see the unvaccinated and the partially unvaccinated. Because at the end of the day, we all believe in medical freedom. We should. At the end of the day, when the COVID vaccine got mandated, that's when people woke up. That's
Yeah.
when people were like, wait a minute, I don't want that. Well, no, you have to take it. And so I think as sad and serious as those events were over the couple of years, I think that it was highly beneficial for people to see, don't take away my freedoms. Like, I live here in the United States, like, no matter what it is, don't take away my freedoms. And one of those freedoms is the freedom to say yes or no to a biologic. And
Mhm.
so why are we not allowing parents to do that in several states in our union? It doesn't make sense.
Thank you so much for your time. Everything you said was so helpful and much easier hearing it from you than reading every single article on your website. I could spend hours learning. So what's the best thing for people to do, for parents moving forward? After they see this interview, what can they do? What action steps can they take to inform themselves and make sure that they're making the best decision for their family?
Is this where I plug myself?
Yeah, this is your opportunity to say how great your website is.
I have a website, drgreenmom.com. It is 100% medically written. So every single article, we have hundreds of articles that are medically written. We cite every single source. And it's about how to raise your child. And it has, what to do for hand, foot, mouth disease. It has what to do if your child does contract pertussis, what to do for, your kid falls down and has a scrape or a bruise. It's so well written. One of our latest articles was what to do to prepare your child for surgery. I mean, and it was written so well. So I just want to say that there is really great information out there. I know that there's a lot of anti and pro information. Mine is very neutral. So if you go to drgreenmom.com, you can find anything for free. I do have a vaccine strategy guide. And it just gives you informed consent. It helps you through the process of making your vaccine decisions. And I'll say, I get a lot of pro-vax commentary about like, how dare you? And the reality is this: I've sold over 10,000 of those memberships, and we send out a survey to every one of them, or most of them, because I started a couple years ago. I started sending surveys out, and I'll probably say that almost 80% still continue to vaccinate. They
Okay.
just want to be armed with information.
Yeah.
They just want to feel competent and feel like, all right, if the pediatrician isn't going to tell me what the benefits and risks are of every one of these vaccines, I'm going to learn it for myself. And then once they feel empowered and informed, they are going to feel better about making those decisions. And so I have a vaccine strategy guide. It's at vaccinestrategy.com. And I have a very robust supplement line that I formulated completely by myself. I've been in medical practice for 15 years, and myself and one of my assistants, she's a physician as well. We have formulated everything that we have, and it's everything we've used in clinical practice. So we know that it works. And that's over at drgreenlifeorganics.com.
Perfect. I will send you all the information once this airs. And in case anyone else sees this, go ahead and say your name for me and spell it.
Dr. Ashley Mayer, Mayer.
And how would you like me to title you at the bottom? Would you like me to just put your website or write physician, or what would your official title be?
Dr. Ashley Mayer, you can say family physician.
Family physician.
And yeah,
Okay.
drgreenmom.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. You were a phenomenal interview. Apologies again for the breaking news.
No worries at all.
And I will get with your assistant who I was speaking with and make sure we get the interview over to you.
Okay, great. And you'll get that over today, correct?
I'm actually leaving. I get in at 3 a.m. So I'll get it
Oh,
into you
that's
tomorrow
right, that's
morning.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'll get it to you
that's
tomorrow
totally
once
fine.
it's uploaded.
That's totally fine. You were
Okay,
awesome.
super.
I appreciate you being normal and not like accusatory, because I get that too. It's
Oh,
like,
interesting. Yeah, I'm just curious. And sorry, I was a little flustered. So if my questions were kind of all over the place, I was trying to refocus and be like, okay, vaccine story now, breaking news, shift the context. Okay, I got to let other people take
no,
over the studio. So I got to run.
oh, it's really funny because just yesterday, the FDA, I should have said this in the interview, just yesterday, the FDA announced they're putting a warning on all RSV vaccines.
Oh,
One
wow.
of them is the RSV vaccine in pregnancy for Guillain-Barré. It's like it's ever
I just saw
evolving.
that on the CDC website.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
Okay.
ever evolving. And that's another reason why parents don't want to do it. It's like, I'm not going to risk that. I'll take my risks.
Yeah, there's no perfection, right? Risks and
Exactly.
benefits
All
to
right.
both. Thank you so much.
You
Have a
have
great
a wonderful
afternoon.
day.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.